I mean, it wasn't gonna be worse than Crystal Skull. Hi, I'm John Bonjour. I'm an artist and a film enthusiast, and I saw Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I have so many thoughts. I just saw the original trilogy again for the first time in years, and those movies are just tremendous. It was a huge mistake to watch those right before this, though, because that's at a super high standard that this movie just can't live up to. It helps that I watched Crystal Skull right after them, and right before this, so that really made me kind of grateful that this movie was good at all. So overall, before we break it into the good and the bad, my general thoughts on this movie are that the first probably 30 minutes of this are crazy good, like incredibly good, to the point where about 30 minutes in, I was going, is this going to be up there with the original trilogy? Like, did they make another great Indiana Jones movie? And then at some point, there's actually a specific scene that I'll get into, but it loses its footing, and then it just never quite gets it back. The whole rest of the movie is just not as good. Let's get into the good first. Like I said, the first 30 minutes are insane. Like, really, really good. There's a 20 minute opening sequence, which is like a flashback with a younger Indiana Jones, not like young Indiana Jones. He's looking for the spear that pierced Jesus' side, and he finds it, on a German train at the end of World War II. And the whole scene is just really, really good. It's got Indiana Jones being the, complete psychopath that he is and just murdering everyone that he can possibly get his hands on, which is great. I love it. He's a crazy guy. There's a great bit where a giant gun on the front of the train gets knocked off, off course, and it starts shooting out toward, the back of the train, and it's taking a turn, so it like shoots all the Nazis on the side of the train. It's just really good. This whole opening sequence feels just quintessentially Indiana Jones, which shocked me. Honestly, after seeing Crystal Skull, I went into this going, I gotta think of it as somebody else, because it's never gonna feel like Indiana Jones. And they really captured it at first. The whole chase scene in the city where he's on a horse and running, all of that is great. There's some really great visual gags, some really fun action beats and character moments with him trying to remember who he is, and as he's kind of getting back in the literal saddle. Great scene. All of it's really good. I also appreciate the themes that this movie is going for generally. I love this idea of Indiana Jones, a man who's been obsessed with the past. He's seeing the future happen right in front of him. We're landing on the moon, and he's just watching the world pass him by. And you really feel that. Like, they set that up so well. But then they just kind of like forget that for a good chunk of the movie, and then eventually sort of come back to it. It's a little disjointed. Other positives, Phoebe Waller-Bridge she does the best with what she's given. I don't love her character in this, but with what she's given, she does a great job. She's engaging to watch, really fun. Obviously, Harrison Ford. I mean, it's Harrison Ford, and he's a great actor, and he's playing Indiana Jones exactly as he always has, which is perfect. I really enjoy Mads Mikkelsen. He plays this character really well. He's done this kind of character before, but the writing that they give him for that, I like his motivation. Indiana Jones villains are always sort of motivated by self-gain, and then they see some option for them to kind of get some artifact or mythological thing, and then that they're always kind of taken down by their own hubris. I love the way that his whole arc goes here. I do think the last act of this movie kind of regains the footing that it lost halfway through. It's exciting. There's a couple of major surprises. The idea of going back in time is something that I'd heard leaks that might happen, and I was real worried. Honestly, when I heard that might happen, I thought they were going to do like an Avengers Endgame thing, but just Indiana Jones and like going back through his movies, and that it just felt cheap to me. So when they started talking about time travel using this, Archimedes dial to go back in time, I got worried. I expected the worst, and I was pleasantly surprised with the way they handled that. I thought it was really solid. I like the idea of this dial not being a time machine, but being more of a a compass to get you to rifts in time. I think that works a lot better. It's not a get out of jail free card. So that worked shockingly well, honestly. And it's really cool seeing, seeing Jones, all of these villains, they find the thing that they've been searching for in the whole series, and they're taken down because they choose themselves over the good of the world, and they're not focused on good. I really like the idea in terms of having, Jones as a character to round out his character. This is the last Indiana Jones. I like that he's tempted by even a good thing. The idea of staying in the past where he feels like he belongs, that's strong. And that, that brings in that theme from earlier and kind of pulls it together right at the end. You really feel for him, and you can see where he would feel like that's a good thing to do, even though he really shouldn't be. And he's seduced by that idea where it shouldn't work, and it won't work. Now, as for the bad, I don't think this is a bad movie. I really don't. I like this movie. I think it fits very solidly in between Crystal Skull and, the originals. But there's so much of it that just doesn't quite work. The exact moment that I fell out of it, they're in Morocco, I believe. I cannot remember Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character name. I'm just gonna look it up because that's too long a name, and I don't want to keep saying it. Helena. Her name's Helena. So Helena, her ex-boyfriend, fiance guy, he comes in and he's ready to kill her because I guess she took everything from him or whatever. But Jones says to her, there's police around them in Morocco, and he says to her, tell them to lower their guns. And something about that moment, this is such a nitpick, so it doesn't really matter, but something about that moment to me it just marked a thing that I didn't love about this movie, and it brought me out so far out that the rest of the movie started seeing all the flaws, all the things that didn't work about the movie. Indiana Jones as a character is so based around the idea that he's the guy who knows what to do. He's the guy who knows where he's going, he knows what his plan is, even if his plan is moment by moment. he's flying by the skin of his teeth. Great, I love that, but he always knows the language of everywhere he goes. He knows the people that he's, to connect with. He knows about the artifacts. He can solve these puzzles, even again, if it's just barely, he can still figure it out. And so having him not know the language of the people around him just felt weird to me. It didn't feel like his character. And then having her come in and know all of that kind of pointed to another thing. So this is the thing with Helena that I just don't like. I don't hate it. I don't think she did great with it. Phoebe Waller-Bridge did great with it. I just don't like the character that they wrote because she's just Indiana Jones. Even down to having her own little short round friend character, with almost the exact same backstory, and then she's got a dad who's obsessed with an artifact and then kind of loses his mind, and then she goes and finds it because she never got the validation from her dad. She doesn't bring anything new. She's just an Indiana Jones copy and paste, and it doesn't work quite as well as the original Indiana Jones does. He has to learn that he can't just go through and do whatever he wants. There's a higher power than him in this, and it's something more than he thought possible at play. She never really has to deal with that. Even when they travel in time, you never see her surprised about that. She just notices that they've gone back in time and goes, oh yeah, cool, all right, so we gotta go back to where we came from. But I wish that we saw some of that with her. I wish that she was ever wrong about something. I wish that she had made some mistakes or had something to her character that wasn't just the best at everything. It feels lazy to me, and it feels empty. Other negatives, I don't know what was going on with the eels. That was a dumb thing to do. There's the whole diving scene, and it sets up for a claustrophobic, interesting thing, and then the geography of the scene is just kind of lost, and you never quite connect with what's happening, and then suddenly there's a CGI eel, and then there's a bunch of CGI eels, and they're all flying around, and somehow none of them bite anybody. It just doesn't, I don't buy it. It doesn't feel tense or real because it's just a bunch of CGI flying around. I'm not saying that you should have had real eels. I'm saying the idea of a sunken ship is already stressful enough. Like that's tense, and you don't need some monster to make it more tense. It's the middle section of the movie, that whole from Morocco to the end, kind of walking into the tomb. That section you sit in too many moments. It's not moving, it's not exciting, you're not really learning anything about the characters. You're just sort of solving a puzzle to get to a thing, and then they get to the thing, and then they find another puzzle, and then they solve that puzzle. And all of the puzzles are way too confusing to mean anything to the viewers. Like, you'd have to have so much background knowledge, where I feel like the original, all the puzzles in the first three, they feel like, you were never gonna solve them, but they feel like when they're solved, you go, oh, that was the thing I didn't quite catch from that. Instead of where this one, it's like, I don't totally know where they got to where they were. Like, I don't know why they landed there. I just know that they picked up a thing from the ocean and looked at it and read it and said that it was in a tomb, and then it was the tomb somewhere else, and then I guess they know that. I don't know why they know that. They just do. It's just a thing they know, and we have to go, oh, cool, I guess they know that. I wonder how they knew that. To that point, I do think it's like almost goofy that they have this whole double cross thing where Indy and Helena give the wrong information, but just slightly the wrong information, and then they head out and they're like, we got him. We fooled them. And then Mads Mikkelsen just looks through little goggles and he goes, they went the opposite direction, so clearly they have fooled us. And then he just follows them. Like, that's not, why did we do that? There's also just like a weird part in Archimedes' tomb where after they've already done the whole singing to find the echolocation thing, which it's fine, I don't know, it's a little goofy, but it feels kind of like a Disney choice to me, but whatever, it doesn't matter. But then there's this scene with a bunch of CGI bugs that are completely unbelievable. Like, they look ridiculous, and Harrison Ford does this little scream thing where it's just, again, it feels like this movie, parts of this movie, fundamentally misunderstand Indiana Jones. Like, they don't get that. I mean, he's Temple of Doom, he's in a room full of just weird bugs and spiders, and he's just sort of walking through. In this one, he's like freaking out because the centipede? I don't know. But then they do get to Archimedes' tomb, and it works after that. The whole time travel bit works really well for me. I like the idea that Archimedes made this dial just to get someone back to him, no matter what. I think that's really clever. What I do think is really weird is he wakes up back in their present, our past, whatever. The return of Karen Allen right at the end, it just feels really weird. The only information that we have about their whole situation outside of that moment is that Indy and Marion had a divorce, and the reason for that divorce was because everyone hated Shia LaBeouf in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, so they killed him off screen. And I don't love having her just show up at the end and make everything okay. You know, in movies, when you feel like this moment was written to get you to a point, and it doesn't feel natural, it doesn't feel like a progression of things that you've known about these characters or these people. It's just a thing that they knew they wanted to get to this point, and then they had to figure out how to get from where they are to that point. That feels so much like that to me. Like, it doesn't feel like a natural progression of the character. It feels like they wanted Indy and Marion to be back together at the end of this movie, so they just had her show up and make everything okay, and it's all great. I guess that's my final thought on the movie. It's good, and if you're a huge Indiana Jones fan, you should see it. It's not gonna break your heart. It's not Crystal Skull. But it's not a movie that I want to go out of my way to see again, and that's a bummer. Thank you for watching this video and checking out my channel. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. I want to hear what you think about this movie. What did I miss? If there's something that you think makes this incredible, let me know. Or if there's something that you think makes it terrible, let me know. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the notification bell, hit all the buttons you want to, or don't. I am not your dad. One more thing. Because Disney, I know the way that you think. I know the cogs that are going on in your little mind. Don't do a spin-off. If you're gonna do more Indiana Jones, and you shouldn't, but if you're gonna do more Indiana Jones, reboot, start over, do something completely new that we can all just sort of push off to the side and go, right. But if you If you give us like a Helena spinoff, I know that's what you're trying to do. I see your little game. That's a bad idea, and leave it dead. I understand. You want to make money. I want to make money right now. I'm trying to make money. It's not going well, but like, there's other stuff. Make some new stuff. Make some interesting stuff that's like different than what you've done.